Hello, it's Ren Presents time. I'm your host Ren, and today we have the final chapter after 70 chapters, actually more than that, in the Belmont Saga, Part 3, Chapter 16, The Ball. This is the final chapter. There is, however, a short epilogue after that. So last week, Paymaster Stenstrom as the Seeker steams towards Cana for him to give up the ship to the Admiralty and face whatever charges are pending against him. Contemplative, reflective, so I blew my mission at the Admiral's pleasure. My mission was to bring brandy to Bazz, and of course the Admirals had the deck stacked against me. They wanted me humiliated, they wanted me out, they wanted my money, and that's about it. And unfortunately, the brandy had been used by the Marians and Morgan Jeterix to help assist the civilians they'd picked up. And he was contemplative. It's like, okay, so what am I going to tell my father? Hey, I blew it. I didn't make my milk run, even though it wasn't a milk run. I lost the ship. I got into a battle with 400-year-old plus robots disguised as the Drury brothers. I found a unknown species that actively and telepathically feeds upon us, and I let him go. And then what am I going to tell Captain Davidge? I promised I would protect the Seeker and give her honor, make something of her. And then Gwendolyn comes in, and Gwendolyn seems keen to foster a relationship of some sort. Even though they've just met, she's much more at ease in his presence, seems empowered, seems more affable, more personable than she was as the commander of the Demophalon John, where she was called the Grizzly Bear, where she was a grouchy, kind of unpleasant person who would get you in trouble if you crossed her path, raised her brow, that sort of thing. But with Paymaster Stenstrom, she seems like a different person. She seems more fun, more at ease to be herself. And there's a reason for that, as we see in later books. And she says, hey, blowing it's subjective. You inspired a lot of people. You inspired Aram, you inspired Tara, you inspired me. This isn't the end. This is just the beginning. And there's a big fleet, and we'll tackle it together. Wherever you go, I'll come with you, or vice versa. And then she says, hey, let's go get some steam off in the gym. Gwen's a very athletic, very physical sort of person, so hey, let's just go have some fun in the gym. And then Aram and Alesta come in and go, hey, we found this rolled up under the table, and it's sure enough a bottle of brandy, the last surviving one. It had rolled under a table and no one saw it, but then they saw it when they went into the mess to scrounge up some food. Alesta gives it to Stenstrom, and then they turn around and haul butt back to Bazz to see if they can probably just make the ball with a couple hours to spare, maybe. And then when they get back to his office, there's something hadn't been there before. There was a gift, and it's a portrait, and it is the portrait that Lily had been painting earlier in the book. Remember, she was working on a painting, and she would never let him see it. Well, it was a painting of himself, but it was one of him in his HRN with his mask, and there was Gwendolyn and Aram and Tara in the background, and the Marians in the background, and then the Seeker up in the heavens, and then Knife, the sister's designated enemy for him to follow, is there too. So Lily, having access to the sister's arcane instrumentality, she can see something of the future and painted this picture. And then the sisters, now that Lily appears to be deactivated, gave it to him just as a gift, like, you're our it man, here's a gift. And some people have asked me, says, hey, we keep waiting for Lily to show up. What happened? Did you forget about Lily? Did she just drop out of the story? And again, as I've said before, I forget nothing. No. Lily has a part to play, and it will be revealed shortly. So let's crack into the final chapter of the book, Part 3, Chapter 16, The Ball. And then there's just a short epilogue to go, and the Belmont Saga will be over. They arrived at the wonderful fleet complex at Dyson-Borman, near the calm waters of the Indax Sea, the evening sky a typical Bazz greenish gray. They landed the ship at the fleet dock and got the civilians and any other who needed medical attention to the Jones at once. The rest, Fleet and Marians alike, headed to the Fleet ballroom at the heart of the complex. It didn't occur to anybody that the Marians were civilians. They, as a group, had become very close in their shared experience on Cronin World. The well-dressed attendants at the door saw the odd gaggle approaching and turned their noses up. "Have you lot been invited to this private function?" "Indeed," Stenstrom said. "We are here under the orders of Admiral Derleth and have been commanded into his presence." The attendants appeared unconvinced. "Have you a paper invitation or a code to offer?" Gwendolyn stepped forward. Ajax Indicar 2, that is Admiral Derleth's personal code." The attendant checked a nearby terminal. "Aye, that is his current code." "Very well." The attendants parted and Stenstrom and his band entered. As Lady Alesta approached, the attendants halted her. "You may not enter the ballroom, ma'am." "And why not?" Aram asked, incensed, taking her by the shoulders. "Because she is not properly shod as is required," he replied dryly, noting Alesta's bare feet. Stenstrom returned to the attendants. "These people are part of my personal entourage, and they are worthy of all honor. She and her lot shall have entry to the ball." The attendant thought about it and then stepped aside, the rest of the group piling into the busy ballroom. Stenstrom and Gwendolyn strode through the posh crowd and approached the vast dining table. There was Admiral Derleth, seated amongst his admiral friends. They arrived and stood there a moment. The Admiral looked up at him. "Gwendolyn, are you all right? What is your business, Paymaster?" he asked, knife and fork in hand. "You should know, Admiral," Stenstrom replied. "I am here at your pleasure." Derleth smiled. "Yes, sorry about that," he said. "Losing your chair and all." "Lose my chair?" "On the contrary." Stenstrom waved his hands and produced a dusty bottle of brandy, which he thumped down on the table. "What's this?" Derleth asked. "Your brandy. You should recognize it. I have fulfilled my mission at your pleasure, and with several hours to spare, I might add." The Admiral scoffed. One bottle? You had a whole crate to bring." "Apologies. You didn't say how much brandy to bring to Bazz. Some bottles got smashed in my rough upload to the Seeker, and a few were used to comfort a group of civilians from Mallets who were in desperate need of aid. But please, enjoy the final bottle with your peers." "What shall we do with one bottle? There are over 100 admirals in attendance here." "I suggest smaller snifters." "Balderdash, your appointment is cost. Gwendolyn, please take this fool into custody on my orders." Gwendolyn spoke up. "Uncle, you know I love you very much, but this fine man has fulfilled his mission and is, as of now, the bonded captain of the main fleet vessel Seeker, and I will attest to it under tribunal. Along the way, he showed remarkable pluck, great ingenuity, and great courage, too. He saved not only my life, but the lives of my crew and those of the Marians here, who are heroes by any measure, and he put an end to a scabrous band of outlaws operating right under the fleet's nose. I am proud to stand here today at his side." "Gwendolyn," Derleth yelled, "you are under orders. Arrest this man." I'm sorry, Uncle. I have been duly conscripted by the commander of a main fleet vessel and am in his charge. I am not currently subject to your direct orders, per fleet regulations." And doing what on his ship, may I ask?" "Ship's engineer. Stenstrom replied. By hook or by crook, Admiral. Stenstrom waved his hands and produced a silver dagger. He gently took the bottle from the Admiral and began slicing away the wax. You are to be commended, sir, Stenstrom said. You helped raise a fine young woman, and if Gwendolyn vouches for you, which she does, then you must be a good fellow. I'm sorry I offended you, and I'm sorry this lone bottle is all that's left from your crate. Be comforted. The rest helped save the lives of League citizens, and therefore was put to good use. Stenstrom got the wax off and uncorked the bottle. He took a whiff of the contents. Well, I was wrong about this as well. It smells wonderful. Truly a product of fine tending and skill. I shall take my leave, sir, and bid you good night. Durlus stopped him. Paymaster, a moment, please. I have been known to be judgmental and rather stubborn. You inspired my adjutant to insurrection. Josephus, he prefers to be called Aram, sir. Yes, Lord Aram, then, has never shown that sort of style before, and you have won over my niece, whom I love very much, and whose judgment I trust. I may have misjudged you and given ear to bizarre things not of either of our makings. So be it. I hereby acknowledge that you have fulfilled your mission at my pleasure. You are, as of this moment, the bonded captain of the main fleet vessel Seeker. I will take care of the pending charges against you, and I bade you return the Seeker to Dry Dock 186 to begin her refits as soon as you are able to get her there. And please, enjoy the ball. Stay and be refreshed with your lot, and be entertained. I would enjoy a dance with my niece at some point this evening, and please ask Lord Aram to join me when he can. I would like to congratulate him on his appointment. I shall greatly miss him. Stenstrom and Gwendolyn bowed. They turned to make their way from the table. Stenstrom's special white holy stone, the one that detected the astral plane, made noise in his coat. Carefully, he surveyed the table. Sitting several place settings down was a black-haired woman in a green gown. She sat there looking at him. Good sir, she said, eyes big and round. I am pleased you made it. I was hoping, praying. Stenstrom stopped, his stone rattling in his hand. Madam, do I know you? Oh, but of course you do, the woman said. I once promised myself I'd never return to Bazz. Here I am. It's a different world than it was before, and so am I. He stood there regarding her for several moments, and then finally, I believe I do know you. I thought you a phantom of my own imagination for a long time. You have tried to kill me several times, as an infant, and as a helpless boy, and again, as a bewildered young man with not a friend in the world. Do you deny it? She shook her head. No, sir, I don't. Are you here to kill me now? No, I came here to congratulate you for accomplishing something I never could, to offer my thanks for the example you've shown me, and most importantly, to ask for your forgiveness. My forgiveness? For everything, for everyone. We are in a closed circle. The Bazzers say, it's time to end it. It's time to let old hurts heal. And I'm asking you to forgive me. Stenstrom thought a moment. I will say that an injustice was done to you once. What you must have felt for my father to be so angry for so long. To put an end to this, and to break this curse that we all appear to be trapped in, I will say that I forgive you and hold you no further malice. Additionally, I must inform you that I intend to escort you to the authorities and inform them there of everything I suspect regarding your former activities, both here on Bazz and in the Calvert lands of Cana. I am also going to inform the sisters that you have breached their thoughts. The woman sat there and considered her response. Then she spoke. I was ready to atone for my sins and face justice, gladly so. But then she pulled a small envelope from her bag. It was new, freshly written in familiar handwriting. It looked like his father's distinctive hand. in Belmont Stationery. Well, then I discovered it's never too late to begin living again, she said. I think I learned that from you, and we all deserve that, don't we? A fine sentiment, but regardless, shall we? He asked, motioning for her to take his hand. She pulled something else from her bag and set it on the table. First, please accept this gift, she said. I have no further use for it. Stenstrom looked down. Sitting on the table was a large garnet on a burnished chain. His astral plane detectors went wild. It was a planar bridge, no doubt about it, the key to opening a gateway to the astral plane. He'd never seen one up close before. Please, take good care of my niece, she said. There was a brief commotion of uncorking bottles out on the ballroom floor. He glanced away for a moment. When he looked back, she was gone. Her chair was empty. Gwendolyn, having witnessed all of this, was confused. Who was that, Belle? Where'd she go? He looked at the now empty chair and sighed. It was nobody. I don't know where she went, but I wish her luck and wish her my best. He picked up the planar bridge and made it vanish. They walked away from the table and made their way across the busy dance floor to where Tara, Aram, and Lady Alesta awaited. Morgan, still weak, was sitting nearby, alert, but a little tired. Tara was standing there with a plate of something. Aram fetched a glass of punch for Morgan and for Lady Alesta, who took it and smiled at him, holding her cup. She was so lovely when she smiled. Look how pretty and clearly in the beginnings of love. Good for you, Aram. Well done. Several of the crew stood around holding some plates from the buffet line while others had waded out onto the floor, testing the waters, some dancing with other crewmen, others with robed Marians. The bond that had formed between them was clear and well earned. They waved, and Aram and Alesta waved back. The music picked up and the dancers parlayed about. Stenstrom and Gwendolyn found themselves jostled and pushed in the tight reaches of the floor. Lace and confetti landed on their shoulders and got in their hair. And soon they were arm in arm, swirling across the floor. Gwendolyn's eyes locked with Stenstrom's eyes. He tried to pull away, but she held him. Her grip was so strong. We've our ship to return to, Gwen. Oh, must we? So soon? You heard my uncle. Weave the night. The ball is ours. This is our celebration, Belle. We've earned it. If I make a suggestion as acting ship's engineer, the crew's been through a lot, and they've earned a few days of fun to relax, to put on some clean clothes and get their heads back on. And I'm sure Tara would like to visit her folks while we're here, to show them what she's become. And I wouldn't mind trying some of this hot Bazz food I've heard so much about, provided I've good friends to share it with. Now that the ship has a real set of coils, albeit small, temporary ones, it'll only take us a day or two to get back to Cana and begin its refit. Let's not be in any hurry. We've much hard work ahead of us, and all in due course. She stood there a moment. I'm sorry, I forgot myself. I'm only an acting ship's engineer. Stenstrom smiled. There shall soon be an appointment available for a ship's engineer aboard the Seeker. You want the job? For good? I know you wouldn't be in command anymore, but think of the name you could make for yourself. Gwendolyn stared at him. Stenstrom continued. And Aram, I know Aram would just miss the daylights out of you if you weren't there, and Gwendolyn didn't say anything. Instead, as the music grew, she reached up and slowly pulled the mask from Stenstrom's face. As she did so, he felt no pain, no rush of anguish for his lost Lily. Rather, he felt the thrill of possibilities with this beautiful lady apprentice who stood at his side in the pit of hell. She stood there looking at him with unforgettable eyes. She pulled the mask away, letting it go slack at her side. The hermelin fell from the folds of cloth and clattered to the floor. Forgotten. So handsome, she said, and for the first time Stenstrom and Gwendolyn, the man in the HRN coat and the grizzly bear, kissed. Apparently, she did want the job. And with that, we conclude Part 3, Chapter 16, The Ball. So, couple things. Stenstrom resolves his mission at Admiral Durliff's pleasure. The Admiral at first was like, Balderdash, I'm not giving you the appointment. It's lost. Sorry. 1 bottle of brandy. What the hell am I going to do with that? But then Stenstrom and Gwendolyn made him see reason, and could be Admiral Durliff isn't that bad of a person. You know, he was always, even though he was grumpy and loud, he was always a good benefactor for Aram. He was a good boss. You know, he kind of would humiliate Aram on occasions, but he was still a good, kind mentor, and he generally cared for Aram. And eventually Durliff says, okay, you are appointed. I acknowledge you are now the bonded captain of the Seeker. I'm going to take care of all your issues. And then just get the ship back to Dry Dock 186 when you can, and we'll start the refits. The money's already been paid. We've got the resources. We're ready to go. And enjoy the ball tonight. It is yours. And Stenstrom and Gwendolyn walk away. He encounters a woman in green, and I hope it's clear who the woman in green was, given their conversation as it unfolds. And the woman says, I'm here for you. I was here rooting for you and to congratulate you, and most importantly, to ask your forgiveness for 100 years of misdeeds and all that. And he figures out who she is. And he says, I think we're in this Bazz curse, and we're supposed to break this curse before it kills us. And the way to do it is to change things up, change the mood, change the scenery, change the mood, the attitude. And he says, yes, I think to break this curse, I forgive you for everything you've done. Now I'm going to escort you to the authorities. And she appeared to be ready to go, but then she had a letter in her pocket from his father, and apparently she's trying to rekindle some sort of relationship with his father. And then she gives him her planar bridge that she used to walk the plains previously, says, I don't need it, bids him well, and then disappears. And then Stenstrom and Gwendolyn, as they're crossing the ballroom floor to get back to their folks on the other side, end up dancing, and then Stenstrom offers Gwendolyn the job of ship's engineer, and she accepts, and then they have their first kiss. How nice. That is the final chapter. There is, however, a very short epilogue, which might as well, let's just knock it out. Let's get this over with. The epilogue of the Belmont Saga. Up on the bluff overlooking the Grand Fleet Complex, a solitary figure crouched down and listened to the sounds of the ball drift up into the heights. The figure was clad in red and black, wearing wrappings and robes. She listened to the music and allowed herself for just a moment to long to go down and join the rest. Lights and music, dancing and fellowship, none of it was to be for her. It was soon time to move on, to renew the chase. Knife stood and made her way back to her little Shadowtech vessel, time again to walk her lonely road. As she walked, a storm picked up, and wind and bits of grit flew into her face. Though masked, she covered her eyes and quickened her pace. Something lifted her up and threw her down to the ground. Knife flipped to her feet and whirled around. Something hiding in the wind had attacked her. She slashed out with her hands, sending out invisible micro beams of Shadowtech, deadly and cutting. She heard something cry out. Not understanding what she was fighting, Knife slashed again and again, sending her Shadowtech into the maelstrom, hearing her unseeing adversary wail in misery. Knife thought she saw something slump to the ground ahead. She formed a Shadowtech harpoon and advanced to plunge it into her opponent's heart. She fell upon the form, rose up, and plunged the harpoon into its chest. There was a scream, and then the maelstrom of wind and sand got more and more fierce. Her mask was blown away, and the wrappings around her arms began to tatter. She felt the wind-driven sand scouring into her bare flesh, rending it to the bone. She dropped her harpoon and tried to get away as quickly as she could. Hands of sand grabbed her from behind. Knife was lifted into the air, struggling and kicking. Microblades of Shadowtech shooting out in a deadly fan. She was savagely bent backwards with a sickening crack. Her head was suddenly wrenched back to her legs, her pelvis snapping in two, folded up and scoured clean. Knife died in agony. The storm of wind raged for a minute or two more. Soon, not even Knife's bones remained. The winds calmed. A figure formed. It moved to the edge of the bluff and looked down on the fleet complex, just as Knife had done only minutes before. The figure lifted a parasol over its head and twirled it about and sighed. "I'm coming for you, Belle," came a soft voice. And that is all. We have reached the end of the Belmont Saga. As I said, I forget nothing. Apparently, Knife encounters Lily, the full unbridled Lily in her sand nargle form, and Lily kills Knife. So Stenstrom's enemy that the sisters had planned for him is killed by the sisters' tool, whom they thought was deactivated, which apparently they were incorrect. And Lily states that she's coming after Belle. And just so if you're curious, Lily's fate is told in the Shadow Tech Goddess book. Her fate, what becomes of her, is laid out in that book. So, I hope you enjoyed. That was a long book. It's two books. I think for the next set of readings, we're going to do something different. So far, we've gone through books that have been published for years. The next reading, I think we're going to do one I haven't finished yet. One that's still in progress. And maybe with your help, I can get through some of these books. And some of them have been around for a long time and just never got around to finishing them. So maybe we can get some inspiration and get them done. So I'm going to take a couple weeks off, and then we'll get to that. So until then, this is Ren Presents. I'm your host, Ren. Peace out.